We're bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that
She's
is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be. I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird. Elbow everyone out of the way to play the part. I'm a narcissist. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so Disney decided to make a Netflix Snow White. The original was Disney's first animated film ever. It's a classic that remains in the memories to this day. And I gotta say, I was never the biggest Snow White fan growing up, maybe because of my childhood was right at the end of Disney's Renaissance, and I had a lot of princesses to look up to like Tiana or Rapunzel. But I have a lot of respect for her and her impact on pop culture. Like Cinderella, it was told and reimagined like 1,000 times, and it's timeless. You see an apple, you think Snow White. The story is a classical fairy tale, and dare I say, it's Disney's definition of a fairy tale. Princess meets prince, there's an evil hot witch with a mascot, she finds a bunch of other 7 men, dies, then marries the first man she ever met, in the end. It's easy, it's classic, it's impossible to screw it up. Or was it really? I thought people were being too harsh on this, but after watching it, I can understand why. One thing I have to admit is the colors are pretty dope here. Unlike The Little Mermaid and Mulan, the palette is actually compelling and easy on the eyes. It gives Wizard of Oz meets Wicked, and the practical sets work when they put some effort onto it, and the colors are vivid and bright, up until Gal Gadot shows up. And no, I can't call her the queen, she's just being Gal Gadot and everything she's in, but this time with a pineapple crown on her head. All the colors are gone, just like that. It's not so subtle, we're told and shown that the sky is literally turning gray as soon as the king dies and whatnot, and Gal Gadot's kingdom is gray and dark like an endless Monday. The CGI animals are stiff and unemotive, like always. They can't get it right since The Lion King and just accepted it by now. Disney can't make CGI animals no more. The magical scenes don't look great either, and the mirror? How does Shrek, a movie that came out almost 25 years ago, has a better mirror? Speaking of which, this is how the movie actually ends.
Yes. You were saying?
This was and is a pretty big and complex issue, so I try to be as respectful as I can. For some inexplicable reason, they decided to CGI the dwarves instead of using, real actors who have dwarfism. In my opinion, they cartoonized inclusion instead of actually doing something that embraces it. Disney spokesperson told ET back in 2022, quote, "To avoid reinforcing stereotypes from the original animated film, we're taking a different approach with these 7 characters, and have been consulting with members of the dwarfism community." On top of that, Game of Thrones actor Peter Dinklage criticized the movie on WTF podcast with a different statement.
Literally no offense to anything. They're very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White. It makes no sense to me. You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the f*** are you doing, man?
However, multiple actors seem to disagree, including Dylan Passel, who stated on Sky News Australia back in mid-2023.
I can't go out for the Harrison Ford or the George Clooney roles because that's not for me. These dwarf roles are for people of my stature.
Right.
And now it's taken away. I don't feel that's right. Now you're talking multiple actors of my stature that don't get these major roles. And why? What's the reasoning? Because we're supposed to be progressive and we're supposed to just not view them as that?
Well, you know the
these
irony.
These were heroes.
The
all
irony.
of these dwarves, all of these dwarves took care of Snow White.
Right.
They all had characteristics, separate characteristics. They weren't these cave-dwelling monsters.
I see both sides, although I have to agree with Dylan on this one. I personally feel like the story isn't degrading or offensive. but it's not my place to speak about this with property, so just leave this one out there. The point is, it wasn't looking good for Disney, so they decided to cast a different group of actors, not all of them having dwarfism, and use motion capture to portray the characters. Diversity? What is that? Let's just CGI those guys and we shall be fine. Final note, the CGI looks terrible. Terrifying, actually. It took almost the whole running time for me to get used to it, and still, it wasn't working super well. Andrew Burnap, it's okay as Jonathan, as in the 2 scenes where he actually had the spotlight after disappearing into the background. His singing voice was pretty good, no doubts there, but yeah, nothing to write home about, and his performance is alright. I think he did the best with what he was given. Rachel Zegler. She has an amazing voice, and she definitely can act. West Side Story proved us that, but here, the direction leaves her stranded and cold, and I'll talk about changes in the story later, but her acting is just as confusing as her character motivations. And it didn't help that she was pretty much past chalking the story for the past 3 years, but don't worry, we'll get to that later.
I need you to give me the stone.
I hate to say this, but Gal Gadot is probably the only actress I know who plays the same character over and over again, which is herself. Her song,
Ready to get the deed, finally done, I'll proceed. Second to none with no doubt. When I'm going out, mirror on the wall.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
it's flat and awkward, and it did nothing for me. Her beauty was the only thing standing out, but it was really overshadowed by her lack of commitment. And of course, it wasn't just a Snow White problem, but a miscast, in my opinion. And this was just the start. He has 5 or 7 lines without singing, and that's it. His motivations? I also don't know, because it never becomes clear. He presents himself to Snow White like a rebel who fights in the name of the king, and yet barely knows or cares about the man that she adores so much. When Snow White says that she thinks her father is alive, he has no emotions at all. He is also said to be the captain of a group of thieves, but has 0 leadership skills. Even Arthur on Shrek the Third had more inspirational quotes than this dude, and I hate the medieval garbage. His chemistry with Rachel is really off, to the point where I thought the kiss was actually never going to happen, and they made him a plot accessory more than a love interest, and it shows. Also, it doesn't help that Rachel Zegler said it could be love or friendship just because they cast a guy. Doesn't mean it's love. So if they don't believe it, how could we? The evil queen carries this name for a reason, and besides her makeup look and everything else looking pretty good, her dull acting made the character lose her main attribute, the deliciousness of just being evil. Her character just bad, guys, I'm sorry. She sounds like a spoiled teenage girl screaming at her mirror inside her room. She just hides behind her castle and her army instead of using her powers, which sounds crazy to me. And then she finally decides to act, and she finds the dwarf's house so easily that I asked myself why she wasted so much time with it in the first place. After that, she gave up her whole kingdom after her political speech failed.
I love democracy. I love the Republic.
Her quote-unquote death wasn't as near as majestic as the 1937 version. Here, she just breaks the mirror and seems to be trapped inside forever, which would be nice if the execution was a bit more committed. And the iconic evil queen is gone, just like that, and I was just as confused as you probably are by now. The original Snow White dreamt about true love, which for some reason Disney seems to be against for the past decade, since their last significant couple would be Rapunzel and Jean. So it's been 15 years since they seem to have lost their formula inside some drawer and never got it back again. This version of the character could foresee love as a secondary thing and it would be okay, but by the time she decides she wants to pursue that, it's almost the end of the movie. She doesn't feel like Snow White. I'm telling you, she could be in any other movie and we wouldn't catch a glimpse of what made the OG so iconic. Her decision to stand up for the queen seems a little bit out of the blue, and her speech at the end was weak and felt unearned. This attempt to modernize her character and treat her like this political figure was a mistake. I'm actually glad this movie isn't called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs because this would be false propaganda. In the original version, they were a huge part of Snow White's emotional journey, protection, and survival. They sheltered her, loved her like family, and even mourned her when she fell into the spell. Each one of them had a distinct personality and design. You could tell them apart by looking at them.
They're the same picture.
They're no fun. If one thing, they're actually kind of mean and annoying. The only one who I cared about was Dopey, but mainly because the movie wanted us to care and he's a fan favorite anyway, so I'll give him a pass. Even so, it wasn't enough, and to me, it felt like another huge chunk of the story was missing. This was the most disappointing to me. Rachel Zegler is beautiful. I don't understand how they could make my girl look like this and call her a princess when we had this. Her Dua Lipa 2017 DIY bob cut was justified at the beginning, but it just looks so lazy. We had Rapunzel's golden hair chopped with a shard of glass and rocked. So how come this was allowed? And if it was part of the plot, why at the ending she didn't grow up a bit? I wouldn't even be as much bothered by it if it was fixed at the finale, but nah, why try at this point, right? Her dress was a joke. There's no sugarcoating. It looks like an AliExpress cheap costume, similar enough to be bought, but different enough so Disney wouldn't sue. It doesn't have any volume, movement, twinkle, nothing. The shapes are awkward and it doesn't flatter her body, and her wedding dress looks like a photoshopped, desaturated version of the same outfit. That's all I have to say. I was low-key expecting her to eat. I came in ready for gowns. I wanted velvet, jewels, silk, and glamour. But what did we get?
She deserves nothing!
She looks like she was ready to go to a fancy dinner party with a fake crown on her head. The original queen was simple but elegant, iconic, and again had a strong presence. There was this one moment with the cake that I found to be very nice, but that was it. But the worst part was every time she moved, this weird metallic twinkling sound came from her clothes, and it was so loud. It was hard to take her seriously whenever she was having her tantrums, trying to be scary and sounding like Tinkerbell. The outfit swallowed her instead of embracing. The accessories look cheap and plastic, and the whole look is polluted, like there's too much going on. Since its announcement back in 2022, it's been drowning in backlash. It wasn't looking good and people weren't having it. She, as a newbie in Hollywood, came out as disrespectful, bratty, and even ungrateful according to some sources. Behind the scenes drama involving her and Gal Gadot were coming out every other week, already foreshadowing the chaotic environment and confused direction of the final project. She seemed to make fun of the original story any chance she had, and acted with disdain every time someone asked her about it. And we know how bad things can get for a woman for saying the bare minimum, but here, I have to agree on the major part. She transmitted this very unlikable energy, like she was better than Disney itself, which goes without saying, sent people off, and after the initial fury and rejection, people just went away with disinterest, which is the worst thing for a movie still in the first fiscal year, and in this case, even before release. This and the dwarfs controversy sent the movie right at the bottom of the wishing well, hopeless. And although I agree that Rachel Zegler fueled the people rejection, Disney is not so innocent either. They got into this idea that if a woman is saved or shows any interest in a man, she's a bad feminist or a horrible role model, and this has been an infamous issue they've been having since the mid-2010s. Women can't be delicate and warriors at the same time. We can love and fight without sacrificing the other. The main issue is, Disney's been trying to fix what was never broken in the first place, and with that, they are the one who loses the magic, and we're the ones gripping onto it. I want to thank you guys for sticking around to the end, and please don't leave without letting me know your thoughts down below. I'm excited to read some of them, and subscribe for more videos like this. It helps me a lot, you guys have no idea. Also, thanks for the love of my Cinderella video. This channel means so much to me, and I hope it can mean something to you guys as well. I promise to keep getting better and improving along the way. And as usual, have courage and be kind, and I'll see you guys soon.